everyone, and welcome to Drawing with Stephanie. Today I'm going to do a quick review of the Wacom Cintiq 16. Now this is just the regular 16, so this is the $650 one, not the Pro, which is a great deal more. Recently I decided I wanted to try a what they call a pen display tablet instead of just my usual Intuos. I was hoping it would make it a lot easier to draw. And it's been quite the adventure. I did not originally start with the Wacom. I wanted a bigger screen. I wanted a 22-inch because I didn't want to lose any screen space. And I could not afford the $2,000 for the Cintiq 22. So I went with a competitor. I'm not going to name which one. They were very polite. They were very friendly, and I'm very glad they accepted my refund. I'll go a little bit over what that was like. The product was great, as in it was well built. I actually did not have any problems with the driver. I made sure to completely get rid of the driver, the old Wacom driver I had on my computer. To do so, you really need to go into the registry and clean things up. I used CCleaner. Good program. It's free. So when I got it set up, it was huge. I forgot to take pictures. So unfortunately, the ergonomic stand I'd gotten for it did not fit my table. Unfortunately, my table is glass. And it turned out that it would not be compatible, so that was really disappointing. You can get wall-mounted ones, but I'm not allowed to put huge holes in the wall, so I had to return that as well. Because it was so huge, it did make it kind of awkward. I was not able to find a place for it on my desks that would fit well. That was one major problem. So if you do consider getting a 22-sized device, even if it is a Wacom, make sure that the placement on your desk is going to work. That makes a really big difference. The 22 was just too big to fit in, say, a typical keyboard drawer like I have here. This is where I currently have the Cintiq 16. It's just small enough that it fits in there well, but it barely does. I did not buy the optional stand. It came with two little pegs basically that flip out from the back of it to sit down, so to keep it at a slight angle. I think they say it's a 20%. But that's just enough. It makes it a decent diagonal, so it's a little bit more comfortable to draw on. And I can prop it up against the edge of my table here if I need to have it higher up. But unfortunately, the 22-inch, you can't do that because of how big the stand is. It was too huge. Which was a shame, because the size of it was great. It did not shrink down the user interface of any of my programs, which is a big problem here with the smaller Cintiq. So if you're considering any tablet that is smaller than 16 or 22 inches, you're really losing a lot of detail. One of the most frustrating things is my eyesight's fairly good, but I'm getting into my 40s now, so my eyesight is starting to degrade, unfortunately, and it's really frustrating to have the user interface shrink. This will definitely happen if you get one of the HD models that has like a 4000 resolution screen. It just shrinks the user interfaces down really small. If you are using Sci 2, you can increase the user interface, so that's helped. I did that on Sci when I was practicing the other day. The current versions of Photoshop, I believe, have an option to do that, but because I don't have that program, I can't show you how to do it. But that is definitely something to consider, is how small it shrinks everything. The other major factor was how the drawing experience was. A big difference between the Wacom 16 and the 22-inch display from the other company was really huge, a really big difference. One thing that I saw in a lot of other reviews was people saying that the pen was kind of shaky, or it squeaked. Mine definitely did squeak. I got two pens on the other display, and one of them was definitely kind of wobbly. It didn't feel like it was quite as well made as the other one. So I tried drawing with the other one, and because of the angle I was having to draw at, I think even when I laid it down flat just to experiment some, the parallax, which is the distance between your cursor and the glass, it was minor, but it was just enough to make it really awkward. Now, if I had wanted to spend a lot of time getting used to it, I probably could have. But the pressure sensitivity in the other tablet was just really different than what I've experienced using Wacom products. And that is what really made the difference to me, is I didn't want to, it felt really like I was downgrading. Even though I was getting this nice big screen, it was nice and bright and the colors seemed fine. Having a pen that didn't draw in a manner that was predictable was really frustrating. Now, if you don't do a whole lot of line weight or detailed stuff, or you're really heavy-handed and you like big, bold, thick lines that don't have a lot of tapering, go ahead and get your Huyons or your X Pen or any of the other alternatives. But if you need something that's going to be really dependable when it comes to your line weight, just skip the other ones and get a Wacom. It is frustrating that the 16 doesn't have any of those nifty buttons on the side. That was something I really did like on the alternative brand. It took me about 2 or 3 days to get everything working with the Wacom 16 when it came to the radial menus. It did not want to respond in Sci. It didn't want to respond in Photoshop. I ended up having to reinstall Photoshop, change a couple settings. Actually, I had to go into the program of Sci after finding a review online of how to do it to change some of the programming language. Fortunately, it was a really easy fix. You just had to change a 0 to a 1. But the fact that I even had to do that was really sad. And that is very frustrating. If you don't want to have to mess around with the drivers, you may want to try one of the other brands. But again, I've also heard that some of those other brands also have challenges with older programming. But let's get on to what you're probably really here for, which is the drawing experience. And I'm actually using Photoshop here. This is CS2 because I'm poor. Oops. Let's get a good picture here. I've been trying to make banners for Facebook lately. Alrighty. So, again, it's really frustrating to have the interface so small. So you're going to be doing a lot of zooming in. But the line quality, whoops, see, this is the problem I've been having. This is not so much a problem with the Wacom tablet itself. It's because this is a really old program. And I've had to play around with it a lot, and it's still giving me these dots. And I have not figured out yet what I can do to get rid of it. I've tried running it as admin. I've tried reinstalling. But apparently it's one of those things that comes and goes because it had been working the day before. But I had to change a couple settings because it was having issues. So let's go over to Sci, which hopefully it will still work today. Alright, there's our nice line. Now, one of the things I saw in the other reviews that other people were doing is when they would go from light to a heavy line, there was such an abrupt change that it looked like they were pressing really hard down suddenly instead of having a nice fluid change of tapering. And when you're actually drawing, you're not going to be doing a whole bunch of swirls in super long lines. So it's not quite as evident when you see somebody just wiggling the stylus across the screen. A lot of people have said that the screen itself has a paper-like finish. I have to wear a glove, which also did not come with the Wacom version. They do have gloves for the other versions. It is a nice matte. It isn't quite as reflective and shiny, so that is nice. But I don't know if it really feels like drawing on paper. I will say the parallax is next to none, so that's been really great. But most importantly, it draws in a manner that feels predictable. I know if I draw a certain line a certain way, it's going to end up looking the way I want to. And I can draw really, really lightly, or I can put just a little bit of pressure in. And also there's a whole lot of less waviness. You know, if there's waviness, it's there because I want it to be. Let me turn off this stabilization feature here. I mean, overall, just the drawing experience is so much better. So I would say, as a general thing, if you don't mind fighting with the driver, and you don't mind that you're going to be doing a lot of technical support on your own, because I did contact Wacom technical support, and unfortunately they were not very helpful. They were very polite, but they wanted me to send them like videos of what I was doing. They wanted me to send them pictures of the problems I was having with the radio menu, and they never were able to get back to me on why it was or wasn't working. Mostly they came up with, you know, well, that's an obsolete program, so you're kind of on your own. So, but it looks like I'm going to have to be going back to the shop when it comes to Photoshop, since it's not working again. Oddly enough, it still works in Photoshop 7 without doing that weird skipping. But so if you've been wondering if you want to get a Cintiq from Wacom or one of the knockoffs, if you've been using a Wacom product that's higher quality than the Bamboo line, I'd say don't mess with any of the competitors. Go ahead and get the Cintiq. It is more expensive, but I don't think you'll regret it. One of the other problems I've heard with the alternatives is they don't last very long. I hunted down a bunch of people trying to find out as much as I could before I made the purchase, and a few people said, you know, it died within a year, or, you know, they decided they just weren't happy with it. And then I've heard a lot of people say they still have it, they still love it, it's the best thing ever. But the major differences seems to be is how you like to draw, what kind of line weights you want, and you know, how much you're willing to spend. If you don't have a lot of experience with a Wacom, going to one of these alternatives is probably going to be just fine, because you're not used to how it could be. It just means the learning curve will be different, and you won't be going, well, you know, it used to be easier to do this, because you've never done it before. It is definitely nice to be able to look at the screen and then draw exactly where you are, and not have to do with the strange disconnect that you get when you're looking at the screen and your hand is down on the tablet, like you have when you're using an Intuos. Something else to consider is you do have to use more of your arm when you're drawing on a screen tablet, whereas when you use something like an Intuos, you can use just your wrist. So I don't know yet if it's going to be a game changer in pain or the carpal tunnel zone, but it's definitely easier to draw circles now. So that's my review. I hope it helps. If you have any questions about Cintiq alternatives and the Wacom Cintiq 16, feel free to email me or leave me a comment here on YouTube. I'd love to help you out if I can. Also, I had to buy this, so this is obviously not sponsored, but I will leave a note in the comments about where I got mine. I got mine off of Amazon. I do have some links down there that I will get money for if you use them. But otherwise, that's my review. If you guys have suggestions for other reviews on markers or pencils or paper or programs, let me know. I'll be happy to do a review for that. And thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.